By 1923, the world insisted that World War I was over. The treaties had been signed. The flags had changed. The soldiers had returned home. On paper, peace existed. Yet across Europe, the consequences of the Great War were growing more dangerous than the war itself. The year 1923 was not defined by gunfire on battlefields, but by hunger, fear, and rising anger in the streets. It was the year when the world discovered that ending a war does not mean ending its damage. 5 years after the armistice, the land still carried the memory of destruction. In northern France and Belgium, shell-torn fields stretched 4 miles, collapsed. Trenches had become part of the landscape, filled with water and weeds. Some villages had been rebuilt, but others remained abandoned forever. Their names remembered only on memorial stones. The war had stopped killing soldiers, but it still killed hope. For millions of veterans, 1923 was a year of deep frustration. During the war, they had been needed. Their purpose was clear: survive and obey orders. In peace, many felt lost. Physical wounds limited their ability to work, while mental wounds isolated them from society. Nightmares followed them home. Loud noises still felt like artillery. Crowded streets triggered panic. The world had no language for trauma. Governments offered medals and speeches, but real support was limited. Veterans lined up for jobs they could not physically perform. Some begged in the streets, wearing uniforms that once symbolized honor but now attracted only brief sympathy. Others gathered in silence, sharing memories with those who understood without asking questions. In Britain, remembrance had become quiet and routine. By 1923, war memorials stood everywhere, in towns, villages, schools, and churches. People passed them daily without stopping. The names were still there, carved into stone, but the shock had faded. For families who had lost sons, husbands, and brothers, time meant nothing. Grief did not fade simply because the world moved on. Children grew up without fathers. Mothers carried responsibilities they had never expected. The war shaped lives that had never seen the trenches. Germany in 1923 was collapsing. Defeat, reparations, and political chaos combined to create one of the worst economic disasters in modern history. Hyperinflation destroyed the value of money. Prices doubled within hours. Workers were paid twice a day so they could rush to shops before their wages became worthless. People carried banknotes in baskets. Children used money as toys. A lifetime of savings could no longer buy bread. Hunger spread quickly. So did anger. Many Germans felt humiliated and betrayed. They believed the Treaty of Versailles had punished them unfairly. Former soldiers, hardened by years of war, felt abandoned by the society they had fought for. Radical political groups promised pride, strength, and revenge. Street violence became common. Trust in democracy weakened. The Great War had ended, but resentment was becoming a weapon. France, though victorious, lived in fear. Large areas of the country were still rebuilding from devastation. Factories, railways, and homes had to be reconstructed from ruins. Veterans with missing limbs and damaged lungs filled hospitals and city streets. Victory felt hollow when nearly every family had suffered loss. Determined to secure reparations, France and Belgium occupied the Ruhr region in Germany in 1923. What was meant as economic pressure escalated into political crises. German workers resisted through strikes. Tensions rose across Europe. Once again, nations faced one another with suspicion and fear. Peace existed, but it was fragile and forced. Across Eastern Europe, the world created after World War I struggled to survive. Old empires had collapsed, replaced by new nations with weak governments and unstable borders. Ethnic tensions erupted into violence. Civil wars and uprisings continued. The promise of self-determination had brought freedom for some and chaos for others. The war had redrawn the map, but not resolved the conflicts beneath it. In 1923, international diplomacy tried to hold the world together. The League of Nations met regularly, offering hope that dialogue could prevent another catastrophe. Leaders spoke of cooperation, disarmament, and peace. Yet the League lacked real power. When nations acted in their own interests, there was little anyone could do to stop them. Many sensed that the world was drifting toward another disaster, but few knew how to change its course. Art and culture captured the mood of the time. Writers, poets, and artists rejected old ideas of glory and heroism. War was no longer romantic. It was industrial, meaningless, and cruel. A generation questioned nationalism, authority, and blind obedience. Faith in progress had been deeply shaken. The world of 1923 felt older than its years. Yet life continued. Cafes reopened. Music played. Cinema offered escape from painful reality. Children laughed in streets rebuilt from rubble. Humanity adapted because survival demanded it. Veterans tried to build new identities beyond war. Families searched for stability. Nations balanced between cooperation and confrontation. The world existed in a tense pause, unsure of its future. 1923 was a warning written in economic collapse, political violence, and silent suffering. The Great War had not taught humanity how to secure peace, only how to survive destruction. Without healing, anger grew. Without understanding, fear became power. History would later reveal the cost of ignoring those warnings. World War I did not truly end in 1918. It poisoned peace in 1919. It deepened wounds in 1920 and 1921. It haunted nations in 1922. And in 1923, it showed how easily peace could fail. This is the true story of 1923. A year without trenches, yet full of conflict. A year when money became worthless and anger priceless. A year when the world stood at a crossroads and chose not to see the danger ahead. Because the war was over. But the future it created was only beginning.